at the end of 2015, I told you I hit burnout. And I realized this is not sustainable. This is not conducive for my family. And this is not the life that I want. We've proven you can make money, but I don't want to make it this way. This is too hard. And I realized also that I needed to duplicate myself, not just for location, but also time, because I was limited with just being here with you right now in front of each other, limited to so many hours in the day.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today I have one of the most respected team leads in Florida. He's an outstanding YouTube channel, moving to St. Johns County, Florida. In the most recent years, he has led a very successful team with EXP, but recently made a move that we'll hear about today. He has become an influencer of the real estate industry with his commitment to video and creative lead generation. Let's welcome Josh Rogers to the show.
Whew. Man, can you wake me up with that introduction every morning on my morning alarm?
I probably would have had even more in-depth coverage. Your LinkedIn's a little thin. That's right. Usually my home run to go and like steal a bio and get some background, but we'll fill it all in here on the show. But Josh, I appreciate you coming on. Been wanting to get you on. I know you took a nice trip here at the end of the summer, and I had a little sabbatical myself, so got away from it for a little bit, but back, and I'm really interested in the new things you got going on and what you got planned for 24. And I think a lot of agents, I'm trying to remember, I think it was at the Landmark Title, I heard you on a panel, and I want to kind of bring out a couple of things there that you said that resonated with me that I think will resonate with a lot of agents. But I was on your Facebook site as I stalk everyone's social media channels before the show.
Right.
Savannah Bananas.
Yes.
You bought a bunch of tickets. Tell us what you're doing there.
So do you know anything about Savannah Bananas?
Other than I'm told they're like the Harlem Globetrotters, but at baseball.
Yes. That is a great description. The Savannah Bananas, in actually one of my top 5 books, it's called Fans First. So the owner of the Savannah Bananas wrote this book, Fans First. I'll get it to you because it speaks to business in such an amazing, new, fresh way. And so if we're all kind of being honest, baseball is kind of boring unless you really, really love it. And even if you do love it, sometimes it can drag out. And so he looked at baseball as just being outdated and irrelevant. And so he took a fans first approach and he said, let's make baseball the most amazing experience ever in entertainment. And so he created the Savannah Bananas, and it's impossible to describe it. It's just something you have to go and experience.
So you've been to one of their games
I've
before?
I've been to a couple of them before.
Oh.
We have a close friend on our team that has a guy that has a guy. So that's how we're able to score these tickets that are very hard to come across. But yes. Tracy, I'd highly recommend you go and experience it because to compare it to baseball is an insult. It is the most extreme, extravagant sporting event and presentation you've ever experienced.
Well, what's amazing is I actually, when I first thought I thought it was, like our jumbo shrimp here in town. Right. I thought it was just a minor league team in Savannah. And then someone said, no, this is entertainment, like the Harlem Globetrotters type of thing. And I was looking at the ticket these guys are drawing some ticket prices.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to get those tickets.
You're exactly right. And they sell out of every game since 2017. And they sell more merch than most of the major league teams do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. So you bought a group of tickets, bring your team, some clients. What's your plan?
Families. So we were able to get 60 tickets, which is just enough to take care of our team members and their families and their kids.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great treat. I think is it next month they're coming? When is it they're coming in town?
Correct. Yeah. Just about a month from now.
So you have to, everyone go to Savannah Bananas website there, call out to them. We'll have to tag them on all the ideas.
I think they should sponsor this podcast.
That sounds like a great idea. Get some swag anyway.
Yeah.
Pensacola.
That's where I grew up.
That's probably one of the only bits of information I got on your past.
Good
and you
job.
met your wife there. Tell us a little bit about that. And what was your kind of initial, visions for a career? Because I don't think everyone thinks real estate when they're 18 years old.
You're exactly right. Yeah. Wow, we're going way back. You've done your homework.
You're not. I'm older than you. So go ahead.
So I grew up in Pensacola, and my wife and I are high school sweethearts. We went to homecoming in 10th grade, and then we went to prom our senior year. And so at college, that's when she actually came over here to Jacksonville to go to nursing school. And then I followed over here to Jacksonville about a year and a half later. And we got married in when I was 2006. So we've been married for just over 17 years.
Awesome.
We have 6 kids. Our oldest is 15. Our youngest is 3. And it's just been an absolute delight, a treasure.
I don't know how you have the energy, but you are younger than me, so hang on to that. So, career wise, you moved over here, so I imagine you're a young person. Did you have a career at that time, or just found some work? What's
it's interesting. So everything's about relationships, and that is now looking back, I can connect the dots so clearly. And so while I was in college and partying and wasting a lot of time in college, the relationships is what led me to an internship with Pulte Homes.
Oh.
And so, yeah, in college, I was one of their interns, serving the salespeople coffee and running their errands and opening the models and turning on the lights, just everybody's do boy.
Right.
And that was my foot into this world of real estate. And when I realized how the earning potential for agents were on site, I said, I don't see anything that even can, hold a match to this.
What can be more fun than sitting in a shiny model? And
you are not kidding.
Yeah.
And so I was incredibly fortunate and grateful.
So what time period are we talking about here?
So that's 2004, 2005.
Okay. So before building comes to a halt.
Correct.
Right. So how long are you hanging with Pulte?
Yeah, so with Pulte and Lennar for about 7 years. So when I graduated in 2006, I just went right into on-site sales as a model salesperson. And my career with on-site new construction was 7 years.
Well, I got to ask the obvious question because, most people, what are you doing as a new construction? Because it literally, I tell people, I've mentioned on the show before, when researching why construction prices went up so much and, started in 2019 and 20, it was because building basically came to a halt. We went below the 50 years prior to 2008. It went below that, any low that we had. How do you survive as a site agent, imagine, 8, 9, and 10.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the beautiful thing is I never experienced the massive success. So literally when I hit the sales floor, it was around 08, 09.
Okay.
So I came in at the bottom. And in a good way, I didn't have a high cost of living because I was right out of school. And so to earn $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year for a college graduate was fantastic.
Yeah.
And so I didn't experience the highs. Therefore, I didn't know what I was missing. Now, I saw everyone else earn it, but then a lot of them got in big trouble because they were over leveraged.
Right.
So I legitimately started at the bottom serving coffee. And then when I hit the sales floor, I started at the bottom of the market. So for me, I was just grateful, and I just earned my stripes all the way up.
What are some of the things you look back then, or whether because I imagine obviously you had some sales training, or maybe you were hanging out with some of these successful site agents of the time, some of the things that you grasped then, whether it was something they were doing or something you look back on and say, oh, we definitely don't want to do that. What are some things you learned during that period?
I just wrote my original mentor that I give so much credit to. Her name is Vicki Bradfold, and she's been in the business forever. And so she's the one that grabbed me as a college kid and just showed me the level of excellence and professionalism that she expected. And that's all I knew. And so I'm so grateful that she set the bar and the standard so high for me, so much so that whenever we'd pull up to model homes, as we're walking in the parking lot, she's picking up cigarette butts and she's demonstrating and modeling that to me, that the details matter. And even if no one else notices, that level of our personal excellence is what matters.
I just made me think, my wife got a compliment 3 or 4 months ago, and I was actually, it was a sale she had last August. But it was, the house had been vacated. The person had actually passed away. The family took it over. And the comment was, that she was still picking the weeds. Even after, I think a lot of people, oh, look, I got a contract. I'm good. I'm going to ride this the next 3-4 weeks till closing. Right. When she was still out there picking the weeds in the yard. And how much of a difference does that make? I mean, because I think you can make it without doing it for surely,
Right.
but over time, you've been doing this a while. How has that started to snowball because your reputation?
You're exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how we do anything is how we do everything, and it's when people are not looking that it really comes down to our character and our integrity and our standards. And this is what I'm instilling into my boys now. I said, look, we don't just do the job. We always look for opportunities to go above and beyond. So where everyone else may stop at the finish line, we go that extra mile for our own pride and integrity.
Right. It'll pay off.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times, but that mean just during that difficult time, because I think every agent goes through this.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, am I doing the right thing? You know, because I imagine there was times sitting in that model, it was crickets.
Yes. Yeah. So if we fast forward, this story is going to line up with exactly what you're touching on. So in 2015, that's when I did have a few kids, and I really was missing out on those weekends, because in model homes, you're in that model no matter what, even if it is and when it is crickets.
Right.
And so at that moment, I looked and I said, for on-site, it's a fantastic thing, but for the season of life, it's time for me to grow and begin to build my own business and be able to choose where I want to do business and who I want to do business with. And so in 2015, I jumped into general real estate, and I thought I was going to kill it. I thought I was going to crush it. I figured, you know, I was young and very proud, and I said, a lot of people like me, and I'm a good guy, and this is going to be easy.
Right.
And Tracy, it was a train wreck. It was a train wreck. It was so much harder. I was completely naive to the fact that there's no shortcuts, there's no free rides. This is a completely different ball game, and I had to start from the bottom again. And so in 2015, I remember 90 days in, I was absolutely broke. And this was a culmination of many poor choices and ignorance and foolishness and just not being a man. I was like a grown boy and kind of stuck my head in the sand and just was putting on this show that everything was great. All the meanwhile, the boat was quickly sinking financially. So I take full ownership with it and for it. But in 2015, I had exhausted the 401ks, paid penalties, back taxes, 3-4 years, all the loans. I had student loans, the car loans. I was driving a BMW, and I was absolutely broke. I exhausted any and all savings and backup plans. And the reality set in because now I'm getting credit calls from creditors 5, 6, 7 times a day. And this became my prison, because anytime this would ring, my heart would sink, and I could feel that tangible stress of, man, these creditors are just wearing me out, and the shame, the guilt, and the embarrassment that I felt through that. And my wife, my beautiful bride, she didn't have a clue to half of the doom that I was in, that I got us in. We have two kids, but on Facebook, you would have thought that I was living the dream, right? And it's just so easy to put on this mask for everyone to think that we're great and we want to impress them. All the meanwhile, we're drowning, you know, in our own isolation.
Did you feel you left Pulte 15-ish?
Yeah.
I mean, were you just kind of cruising along? Did you feel you were at a peak that gave you this confidence to make this jump into the, I don't know, what do you want to call it?
Yeah.
Retail. I mean,
general real estate.
General real estate. We'll use the general real estate. I mean, what was it that gave you the confidence? You know, I'm gonna cut the umbilical cord, or was it just hey, I need to take some weekends because now my kids, you know, what your oldest would have been 6, 7 years old, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good for kind of finding that gap. There was about a 1.5 to 2 year gap before leaving Pulte into jumping into full-time general real estate. So I kind of was like doing like a home-based business network marketing thing, and then just playing, you know, just kind of squandering. I was not working.
Right.
And so that 2 years of just negligence is what got me into that position. And so it all came to a head on in 2015 at 8 o'clock at night on a Monday night. My wife and I are sitting in our living room, and the kids are in bed, and we hear this knock on the front door, and we're thinking, are you expecting anybody? Because people don't pop by anymore. When you and I were younger, you know, people would pop in and it was normal. But now you don't expect
8 o'clock
unexpected guests.
You might get shot at.
You're exactly right. I was like, whoa, maybe we need to turn off the lights.
Right.
So Sarah goes up and answers the door, and it's this deputy that's serving papers, lawsuit papers from all of my creditors that I just haven't been paying. And that's when it was just like, man, a punch in the gut of like, okay, I've been exposed. Like there's no more head in the sand. And I need to either, I got to do something. I got to grow up and be a man. Right. And so at that moment, that was the moment. And I fessed up to Sarah of just the dismal situation that I've gotten ourselves in. So the next day I woke up and I said, I'm going to treat this like a full-blown career and do anything and everything I got to do to get out of this. Right. Everybody was saying I should file bankruptcy, but a really close friend, Matt Plummer, he's been my best friend and mentor through this whole process. He's like, man, you could file bankruptcy. And that is, you know, a tool for some situations. He's like, but if you do it, you may miss the lesson in the pain and in the journey. Mm-hmm. And you may not reestablish the different behaviors and habits. And he's like, it took you a while to get here. Why don't you just give yourself some time to grow out of it? So that's what we did.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so I jumped into, you know, cold calls, door knockings, open houses, you know, the triple line dialer where I'm doing, you know, hundreds and hundreds of dials a day, open houses on Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sundays.
No, it wasn't EXP. If you want to mention the broker or wherever you went with, that's always a question I always have is why, because you're getting back into real estate, right? Who do you choose to partner up with? Because what broker?
Yeah, it was fantastic. So I started with Howard Flashin and Keith Francis at Roundtable, and those guys are amazing. Their families are amazing, and that was the perfect, you know, family for me to come in and be a part of. Mm-hmm. It was great, and so that was where I started. And as I grew through that first year, I locked arms with Lori Michkowski, who was the broker and team leader of Keller Williams. Okay. So Keller Williams in the Jacksonville office. And Keller Williams gave me a lot of the tips, trainings, coachings, and the game plan and productivity coaching. So coaching for me it's at the top because coaching comes in, it shines a light on the blind spots. It reveals to you your tendencies, your weaknesses, where we become defensive. You know, a good coach just leans into that and it makes you better.
Well, I assume your experience humbled you a little bit because I think if someone, you know, had spent 6-7 years with Pulte, and even though you took a couple years and went back, you're like, well, you could have come in with the arrogant attitude that you know it already, right? I've sold houses, you know, whatever, but you humbled yourself, you know, and how important was it to go with like that Keller Williams and get that coaching? Because one thing I always like to get across on the show is, if there's a new agent watching this, or maybe someone, you know, who maybe chose the wrong broker, don't even realize they're not with the wrong broker, they're not growing, they're not having success. Maybe they've just been moving along and just making it where there's, you know, there is an abundance in this industry if you go after it. But the importance of getting with that right brokerage, and you accepted the coaching, how important that was.
It was everything. Yeah. It was the difference between success and failure. Mm-hmm. And I didn't humble myself, man. I was humbled. Mm-hmm. In spite of myself. And in that desperation, I was open to anything. And so through that Keller Williams, the people in Keller Williams and the atmosphere that they created, mm-hmm. I came in and I'm like, okay, what I've been doing is not working. Just, if you know what works, just tell me and I'm going to do it. Right. And it was hard work.
So that first 12 months, you're back in it. You're doing what the door knocking, you're doing the open houses. Are you seeing the needle move? What's happening for you?
Yeah, I made an ultimatum to myself in that January that if I don't do 6 deals within 30 days, I need to either go back to the builder or go get just a regular job. Mm-hmm. And I got the 6 deals.
6 deals in 30 days.
6 deals in 30 days. And that was a breath of just life, proof of concept. Mm-hmm. And it was hard, man. Like, it was incredibly uncomfortable, incredibly hard, demanding, exhausting, but it worked. And all I needed to know is that this is going to work as long as I work. and I got the right team that's coaching me along. So the first 12 months, I burn out, but I had to do what I had to do. I just needed an influx of oxygen and cash.
Right.
And so basically, I told Sarah and my kids, I'm like, hey, daddy's got to go to work.
Right.
All right. And so like cancel anything and everything. Don't expect me at, the family functions because I got to go. So at the end of that first year, it's crazy to say this out loud because now looking back, it's unbelievable. But I did 27 deals that first year, which was just an absolute game changer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I imagine you kind of lost, what was your circle of influence at that time? What was your, because those are easy touches to call friends and families or notify, hey, I'm in real estate. You do your regular touches of the people but you had to go out and find people you didn't know that were ready to do a real estate transaction.
Yeah. Had to fast forward.
Yeah.
Because the sphere and the referrals takes time. So I just had to do it all. And a lot of that was the cold calls, the circle prospecting, the FSBOs, the expireds, and the open houses. Open houses were huge for me.
Well, let's teach a little bit on that. What were some things that, and maybe you still do today? I think everyone should be always trying to improve, tweak it a little bit better. But what were you doing at that time? Do you think that it worked for you?
Well,
as far as open houses.
Okay, well, open houses specifically was it's a full court press. It's not doing one open house a week and hoping that that's the one that you're going to catch a fish in. So it was open house Saturday morning, open house Saturday afternoon. So 4 different listings, not my listings. I didn't have any business.
Right.
Open house Sunday midday, Sunday afternoon. Because even if you do an open house window for just an hour, the people that are in the market that are real buyers with real money, they generally show up at an open house right when it opens. No reason to hang out for 3 or 4 hours.
Right.
I can do 2 open houses within the same time because generally after the first 30 minutes of an open house starting, then it's just random looky-loos who happen to see your signs.
The neighbor finally makes it over.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they don't have a sense of urgency. A lot of times they're not the real legit true buyers.
Right.
And so before those open houses.
Now, is that something you learned or did you pick that up? Did you hear that from someone else? I said, oh, that's.
Yeah, it was trial and error.
Yeah.
And then it was affirmed through experience. And then I've seen some people say that as well. But yeah, open houses, I would say hour and a half max, to be very strategic.
So what you were, being a new agent, you just said, hey, I'll split the time with you. I'll take the first hour, you take the second hour type of thing? Or how did
with
you?
With the listing agent?
However, how did you finagle your way in to get that first hour?
Yeah.
And then leave instead of actually staying there the whole time?
The expectation with the sellers is our open house is an hour. And so, that is just us leading and counseling the seller. So it's just an hour. And the listing agent, they don't want to do open houses. So I would go to, the CCs and the Christina Welches and say, hey, got any houses that you'd like to have an open house? And they love that. So I was able to get out there and then also door knock the neighbors beforehand, invite them to the open house and just get conversations going. And that circle prospecting is circle prospecting the neighborhood, inviting the neighborhood to an open house. So it's a very natural, easy kind of conversation to have with cold calls. Hey, this is Josh. I'm helping one of your neighbors, sell her house.
Right.
I just want to invite you to stop into the open house. And so that's what they initially perceive there is the reason you're calling. And then at the end of that call, you say, hey, shot in the dark. You're not thinking about moving in the next year or so.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe if you make enough calls, you're going to get somebody that hesitates and they're like, yeah, it's weird that you called. My wife and I were just talking about it last night. And all you need is one.
I know you would agree with this, but because we'll talk about your YouTube channel eventually, because you've gotten very hyper local and right into some of these communities and creating videos and so forth. But the amount of referrals that come from people in the neighborhood, inviting their friends or cousins or whatever, say, hey, if you're moving from Michigan, you need to come live here in Beacon Lakes or whatever.
Right.
I would imagine that started to really, grow for you and what you're talking about. And I don't think agents really tap into it, as obviously you saw probably great success and continue success there.
Yeah, you're so right. And when you're new and you don't have any business, just tapping into someone else's kind of, flow of business is just a good way to get started. And that creates momentum. At least it gives you something to build off of. And so then when I was in the open houses, I was shooting content, doing videos, putting it out on social media, because the name of the game is the agent that knows the most amount of people and interacts with them is going to win.
Very good advice right there. That's a reel right there. We'll have to cut that. But it's so true. That's what social media's allow us to leverage, right? I mean, to open, obviously I get asked commonly, why I do the podcast. Well, every agent that comes on, I'm sticking this video over onto their page, and all their friends and family see it.
Right.
And now I've entered into their circles as well. Yeah.
And I have to give you credit for your consistency, your focus, your follow through, and your commitment. It's incredible. Like, what you have done is absolutely incredible, and it's a ton of work. So
I appreciate
great job.
I appreciate it being recognized. You flattered me. I'm going to turn around. Okay. Because this could go on for a little bit, maybe. I don't know. I think when I talk about brokerage changes from just an agent changing brokerages, typically it's because, the broker they're at maybe was good at one time, maybe what value they saw. But one of the challenges is, as a team lead, to run a team or to run a brokerage, you got to be out in front and be continuing adding value to the troops that are following you. You have recently decided to move to Real.
Yeah.
What's the reaction with is the whole team coming over? I have seen some recent moves where not the whole team moved with the team.
Interesting.
So how that happened, but give us the story behind that and in your reasoning of going from EXP to Real.
Great.
Yeah.
This is in different stages of life. We have different vehicles depending on what our goals are. And so personally, there was a stage in my life in college when I drove a Volkswagen bus. It was two-tone yellow and it was fantastic. 4-speed manual with no AC and no heat. And that served me at that stage of life. And then the next stage was a pickup truck. And then the next stage was. And that's how I view brokerages. They're vehicles depending on what we need and what our goals are. And so Keller Williams taught me how to build a business and not just sell another home. Keller Williams taught me how to act and think like a CEO and hire to my weaknesses and focus on my highest producing activities.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful for Keller Williams. They really paved the path for the whole real estate industry. And then after that, I felt like I had consumed most of that value from Keller Williams as the model, and then also the people I surrounded myself with. And we were near the upper echelon of the pond that we were in. We're kind of like the bigger fish in the pond. And that's when I said, okay, I don't like being the bigger fish, because then that means that I'm not able to grow, nor are our team. And so that's when we transitioned to EXP. And I feel like EXP was the new Keller Williams, paving a new path, doing things differently and innovating. And it put me in a pond with massive fish. And as a result, it allowed me to grow. And now we find ourselves here, like literally, Tracy, tomorrow, we're pushing the red button. And I am going to be... You
got a lot of stuff to change on your social media.
You're not kidding. The whole week has been consumed. But tomorrow, I'm officially making the announcement that our team has moved to Real. And I feel for us, it is the next step above, beyond where we've been. And the reason I made the decision for Real is I looked through the eyes of the agents on my team. And I said, if it doesn't benefit them, give them more opportunity, allow them to build a better business, better quality of life, and enjoy it, then we're not doing it.
Right.
This is not something where Josh is going to benefit off the backs of, the team agents. And so,
because your team could just
absolutely
vanish overnight.
And I even sent out this solid email. I said, look, if there's not unity, if anyone is unsure or hesitant or unclear, that means we all need to just tap pause. We're not going to do this. You are in charge of your own career, and I'm not going to presume that you're just going to move brokerages because I'm moving brokerages. And everyone, not only is in unity, but they're fired up, man. Like, I have seen this sense of excitement and pride coming into a new model that I've never seen before. And so they're posting on social media now, as we see, and they're like buying merch, and like they're like, we're already planning to go to inner circles, masterminds, these events. It's really exciting.
So let's step back in the process. When obviously Real's been out. Actually, I was actually watching the video. It was created in 2014, but really didn't start to take on until about 2020.
You're right.
I've had,
and you certainly do your homework. That's impressive.
I did a few minutes there watching because I just want to make sure because it's technically called Real Broker. Of course, you see that. I was actually trying to figure out how to make the L backwards on our thing, and I didn't have time to figure that out. But anyway, there's some influencers on Instagram. Yeah. I know, we talked about yesterday, pre-show, a couple people locally, but it hasn't really taken off here in Jacksonville as type of thing yet, which it will now because you're going to bring it to the forefront with the influence that you have. But who introduced you? Did you go to a conference or something? Did someone grab you, or you just got a call one day and decide, okay, I'll listen to you? I mean, when did you start to plant the seed that let me dig deeper into Real?
Yeah, great question. Yeah. It was put on my radar about a year ago, just, seeing and relationships. But the core inner circle that I had been part of, EXP, over the past 6 to 7 years, that has just radically improved my life and my quality of life and my business. So that inner circle, they had seen the opportunity, made the decision to move to Real for many different reasons. And that's what opened my eyes to say, okay, these are smart people. They're friends. I respect them. They poured into me. Why don't I take a look at it as well? And so that happened about a month ago. Now, it's so important, Tracy, to also hear that just because someone else made a decision doesn't mean that I was just going to follow or blindly follow or feel obligated. And so in the interim, the past 3 weeks, I've literally met and spoken with about 6 to 7 other high quality brokerages here locally, with a lot of the past friends that I've been in contact with in the industry. And my takeaway is the people here in our market are awesome. Like, they are so solid and so awesome. And I respect all of them. And each company has their value that they bring to agents. And I can see where it could be incredibly important to some agents, whereas another agent, for what they need and want, a different model would fit them. But I definitely want to make sure that I saw as many of the top models as possible. So then if I made a decision, I made the right decision for our team. And we landed with Real.
Yeah. I have some people that I chat with. They think, obviously the things we're dealing with right now in the market changing, which has been kind of changing for about 18 months now. Last year it was fun. I was listening to a comment someone was saying, actually it was David Heekin was making a comment, because it was actually a Real. I just put it on LinkedIn because I had him over here the other day, and we were talking about the marketplace and how last year, he said, some leader in the market thought that rates were going to go below 5 last year. And he said, no, it ain't going to happen. And so we're having to deal with those changes. Did you feel Real was going to, or EXP wasn't moving forward, or Real was moving faster?
Great question. Yeah, man, you are dialed in. It's really impressive, as you're working through on the fly with our conversation, your insightful questions. A lot of people don't have that talent.
Appreciate it.
It makes it for a meaningful conversation. Had this not been put on my radar from my inner circle moving, I was as happy as could be with EXP. I didn't have any pain points, nor did I feel like I was lacking anything. EXP has been so good to us, and I'm forever grateful, because it introduced me to that inner circle. And so I had my offboarding call with EXP yesterday, and I said, no complaints. If Real didn't exist, I would still be as happy as could be staying with EXP. And so this is moving forward. This is skating towards where the puck is headed. And we feel like Real is a massive opportunity and incredibly exciting. And the leadership is the sleeves up and so in touch with the agent that gets us excited.
That analogy right there, the leadership being involved. I mean, that's as great, as we just mentioned earlier, the greatest challenge of a team lead, a broker, if you're all the way up the top level of EXP or Real or Keller Williams, you have got this industry's changing all the time. You really don't have time to settle back. Now you can grow your insightful team to help you stay in front versus being the only person you feel you got to go out and sprint every day, right, to stay ahead. But what are a couple things, tangible, rubber to the road stuff that you feel Real is doing that is moving, going to take you to the next level?
Right. We had a Zoom call with the CEO, and he was just so down to earth and relatable with connecting with my operations person and I. And he was saying that they have built this company on a foundation differently than any other real estate company. And it's built on a foundation. And we hear the word tech thrown around a lot, loosely. And a lot of times it's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
But what we are already experiencing is the speed of business and convenience that we are experiencing within 2 days with Real is like nothing we've ever experienced before. And so the tech is you're managing your entire business from an app. It's not a big clunky website. And then this app is going to integrate with consumer facing apps. What's really exciting with us agents is through the technology, it's very media focused, and you'll see so much on social media, Instagram and YouTube, how Real has just absolutely adopted and mastered video, social media marketing, and there's a ton of influencers that are teaching the agents how to be relevant and not get left behind. And then this is really interesting. Real has jumped into the financial tech space. You'll hear that referred to as fintech. And so they have a Real debit card that your commissions can automatically get loaded to. And then you can accumulate points and bonuses and offers, and even a form of credit that you can take a loan against stock that you're accumulating, against revenue share that you're accumulating, and commission checks that are in the hopper. You can go ahead and use this fintech card as a way to live your life and run your business.
So I'm going to use that analogy to put the rubber to the road. Your agent on your team, how are they? Give me an example that someone listening, we just heard that, but let's give them something they can actually chew on.
So whenever you get paid your commission, it's immediately ready on your card.
Right.
And so you can go out and take your family out to a steak dinner to celebrate.
Not waiting for the check, run it down to the,
Right. And that is a pain point. 2, 3, 4, 5 days of waiting for your commission check, that's a massive friction point. And so I always tell people, you can do a lot of things to salespeople, but don't mess with their money and don't make them wait on their money. And so I think just that speed to getting paid is a massive part of it. As you sell homes and as you help build the company issues stocks. So you can buy stock at a discount, and sometimes you can just earn stock as a grant. And that stock is loaded on the card that you can borrow against if you're in a pinch or whatever you need.
Do you think that the stock part is a big seller for the average agent? I mean, I think of your team, different people saw different values here. Yeah. What are some of the things that each one saw? Oh, I like the stock option, or I like this. What are some of those?
I didn't take the stock seriously enough when I joined EXP in 2017. I thought the opportunity was other areas in revenue share. It was the stock all along. It was a total sleeper. And so real time, multiple agents on my team had accumulated and earned hundreds of thousands of dollars through the stock with EXP. And so then these agents are paying off some of their mortgage. They're buying their 16-year-old a car with the stock. They're paying off their wife's new Ford Bronco with the stock. And so now looking at Real, I'm like, man, I am not going to have this blind spot again. The stock is where it's at.
This is the question, the thing that I think about, because you're Real, like EXP, it's not the traditional brokerage where they're taking an 80-20 split or whatever. They're really living off those transaction fees. What makes the stock so valuable for any of those companies? Why would someone invest in Real? Like, well, housing market goes down, that, it's going with it. It's not, and we're in a down market right now, or maybe it's a buy right now because everyone's like, well, it can only get, well, not that it's so bad. I mean, I think we're blessed here in Northeast Florida for the demand, but what is the real true value in the stock of any of these companies?
Are you talking about investors in general or the agents?
Well,
it's kind of one and the same.
Yeah, I would agree. One, just in general, yeah. What someone who obviously bought EXP, may have peaked out. I mean, obviously here locally, I would say, yeah, because you and Mr. Snow have both moved to different brokerages now.
Right.
So the value of EXP here locally at least is deflated. Maybe it's hotter some other places, but when you look at it and they're only living off these transaction fees, what is the true value?
Where's the
behind
value?
it? Yeah. How do you expect a growth, to invest it's $10 a share today and it's 25 next year,
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And so you'll see these companies moving into the title space, moving into the mortgage space, and then with Real moving into that fintech space. So these other profit vehicles is what adds to the value of the company. And then just agent growth. And so while Real, I believe, is EXP circa 2017. And so while EXP may have, hit that maturity stage and is just kind of hovering along right now, that's why we're so excited about just the upward mobility of Real.
Right.
And then also it's so important as an agent that produces well, there's opportunities within Real to earn $24,000 of stock. So you're not buying it, you're not paying for it, you actually earn it. And so for me, with EXP and Real, that's mind-blowing. That's the equivalent of a 401k that you're not even contributing to.
Right. Or the employer's contribution coming in.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And so now it's vested for 3 years, but I'm going to be in this game for a lot more than 3 years.
Yeah.
And so you look back and say, man, 24 grand of stock each year that you can earn, that moves the needle.
The fintech side.
Yeah.
Because we know technology is changing, by the second, and that type of thing. How, this is a big move. I mean, you're all the branding. I mean, it's going to cost you money to make the move and redo all your signs or cards, let alone take the time with all your social media sites. It's a whole, investment that you're having to take because technology is changing all the time and they're selling themselves, sounds like, primarily as a tech company.
You're right.
That's providing, these apps and services to make your life as an agent on the ground easier, faster. Like you said, the speed of business. Tom Reber likes to use that all the time. The speed of business, which is, it is true. If you don't answer the phone, they're calling somebody else. You got to react quickly. So the confidence that you had to do some research because of the track record. Are they constantly improving? Are they better than they are last year, let alone yesterday, as far as the tech? Because I think you can get on that tech and then all of a sudden the guy who's really running it gets someone over here, says, hey, I'm going to write you a check, come over and work for me.
Right.
And all of a sudden the tech starts to.
You're right. I mean, the speed of tech it was 5 years. Now it's 3 years. I mean, now the speed of tech is so fast.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that is, all we can do is look at the track record. And so the president of the company has built 3 other tech companies and had massive exits out of that. So based on his track record, I'm hoping, man, we're making a big bet on it.
Right. My first 8.5 years was at Quicken Loans, and they sell themselves, of course, Rocket today, but they sell themselves or, as a technology company that does mortgages, and they pride themselves. And Dan Gilbert prides himself on hiring the most, cutting edge, and he's going to invest a lot of money in the technology because he knows the speed of business in his model of, of course, now it's, since refis has dissolved, the online call center situation that kind of has thinned out a little bit. Their call centers is not a big, if Loan Depot's pretty much closed all their call centers. Now they're out there like any other brokerage on the street, type of thing. So technology now has gone back to the relationship thing. So I'm going to spin this now to social media, which is made to be social, or their YouTube. I know you talk a lot about, you brought in a lot of times to talk about YouTube. You have a great YouTube channel. At what point, you talked about in 2015, realizing creating the videos, but what point did you feel it was really like, oh man, I got to go all in?
Right. It's when at the end of 2015, I told you I hit burnout and I realized this is not sustainable. This is not conducive for my family. And this is not the life that I want. We've proven you can make money, but I don't want to make it this way. This is too hard. And I realized also that I needed to duplicate myself, not just for location, but also time, because I was limited with just being here with you right now in front of each other, limited to so many hours in the day.
Yep.
And I kept going back. I'm like, man, I come from new home sales, and every day people would walk into my doors. The fish would jump into my boat, and without a real estate agent. So how in the world can I get those fish before they go into the model homes? And I was just racking my head. I was like, it's like right here. They're identifying themselves. And then I took it back just to the most basic fundamental in the customer's shoes. And Tracy, let me ask you this. When you think a customer walks into the model, me as a salesperson comes up and greets them, shakes their hand, I'll say, hey, how can I help you? What do they say 9 out of 10 times?
I'm just looking.
And I just want to look at the models.
Yeah.
And that's what gave me the idea. And it was monumental, but it's so obvious. And I'm like, dude, these people just wanted to see the model. So what if I just shot videos of the model and put them on YouTube?
Right.
And this was before anybody was doing YouTube.
Where were the builders at in this? Exciting. I know today, statistically, they know that the average buyers looked at that model so many times online already before they even come in and seen the site agent.
Right.
Were they even?
This was not being done by anybody, man.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that I was the first to YouTube, but I was an early adopter because this was back in 2015, right before YouTube even caught any traction. So the builders, they're like, what are you doing? Where are you putting it? All right, like whatever, do whatever you want to do. And so that's what I did every day. I just go out and shoot model homes, shoot communities, shoot drive-through tours. I put myself through the filter of if I were a buyer and I was out of town, what kind of information would I be searching for and would be helpful for me? And I just started shooting. So now, 8 years later, I have 2,600 videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's just a game of how many fishing lines can I have in the water while I'm sleeping or while I'm here with you. I have 2,600 other Josh Rogers working for me right now.
Yeah.
And last night when I was sleeping at 3 o'clock in the morning, people were watching. People are developing a relationship with me while I'm sleeping. And when they call me, Tracy, and I say, hello, this is Josh, they always say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you sound just like you do on your videos. We've watched 30 of your videos. And so while I don't know them, they intimately know me and my life and my family.
That is one of the things I try to get across. I've been referring almost probably on every show lately. I was interviewing George Guerrero from Miami. He has RESF. He has nearly 500 agents working with him in 5 offices, very involved at NAR and at Florida Realtor. But he believes the 2034, 44 agent is going to be that talk show host, newscaster type person. And with the video, he has the same attitude. Started even earlier than you did. When posting a video online took steps.
Yeah.
Here now it just takes seconds. You could do it with your phone and boom, within seconds it's up on YouTube for people to see. Dig deeper, if you could tell a colorful story to really resonate the relationship building, because people, I've heard this statement and I totally agree with it, that when they see you on video and they're watching, your brain does not differentiate whether we're sitting here face to face versus them watching the 30 videos as if you were sitting right in front of them.
Right. I'll prove it to you. Have you ever been watching a video?
You probably actually made that statement, actually. I might have stole that from you.
Have you ever been watching a video and you're so caught up in the person or conversation, you find yourself mimicking what they're doing? So if they're smiling, you may find yourself smiling. Yeah, now that it's on your radar, you realize it. And that's called charisma. And that's when you feel like, oh man, I feel like you're like, we're on the same page. We're thinking the same thing. When people say that, that means there's a connection. And that is done through video. And I can watch it with my kids. When they're watching a YouTube video and the person on there smiles, I'll see them subconsciously smile. There's a connection.
Yep.
And it's powerful.
Yes.
They feel like they know you. They feel like you get them. I feel like I feel like you're saying what I'm thinking. And I would say this, don't try to be anybody else. You and I were just talking earlier before the show about man, this person is amazing, but they're a little too perfect. Like I can't connect with them. And so it's okay to stutter. It's okay to have pauses. It's okay to kind of like slip up and just like when I slip up now, man, I never do second takes. Like I'm 2,600 videos in. I like if I do a second take, I'm like, forget it. I just need to, but I will laugh at myself. I'll make jokes about myself. And if I slip up with a word or whatever, I'll call myself out. And the people appreciate that.
Yes.
Because they're like, oh, this is just a regular guy. And that's what I always try to say on my YouTube videos, because if we're not careful, we'll come across as a news reporter, which is too perfect. And when you're too perfect, there's a disconnect.
Yep.
There's a lack of trust.
Yep.
And so, Tracy, on my videos, I'll say, hey, you guys, like, I'm sure you watch probably 20, and it's with my phone. I shoot my videos with my phone. I'm sure you watched 20 or 30 of my videos, and I just want to pause for a second and just let you know, I'm a real guy, all right? You'll see me at the gas station.
This is not AI.
Yeah, and, pumping gas. So, like, don't let the video create a disconnection. Like, take a second and send me a text. Like, it's me.
Yeah.
And you'll be amazed by how far that goes.
Yeah.
To just tap a pause and, like, snap out of consumers consuming content, and let's get them engaged with us.
One of the reels I posted was from a guest I had last week, Deidre, and she does photography and videos and that sort of thing for the listing agents and stuff. And it was like, why are agents afraid to get on video? And it's this feeling like they have to be perfect, when in reality, trust me, we're all imperfect. We all, whether what we look like, we are who we are. Right. And people are going to relate to you quicker. And the journey of video, which I'm sure we could go back to the, first whatever videos, as Mr. B says, shoot 100 videos, then go back and look at yourself. Perfect. And because my podcast, I can go back to the first 20 podcasts and different pauses, because I listen to myself when I'm, when it comes out on air, and I'm listening, where am I pausing? What am I doing? Like you made a statement, because I was actually, you finished a little early, and I was thinking of another in-depth question, but what I've learned obviously is not to interrupt you. I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm thinking of because I'm naturally inquisitive. I want to, dig deeper, but that natural thing is why people connect with you. It's not being that perfect setup. Or I was talking with an agent the other day. You could tell she's reading a script. And I said, you're not smiling while you're reading a script. Yeah. You're focused on that, and people want to see your facial expressions. They want to see you smile, and that makes them smile, as you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the number one tip I share with everyone is smile. Learn how to talk and smile at the same time.
Yep.
And that alone will just put you at ease. But Tracy, what we see as our flaws and inabilities is actually our superpowers. It's just, we're so critical of ourselves. And so I would just encourage people, give yourself grace and lean into those, what we think, inabilities, because everyone else scrolling and consuming has their own inadequacies. And if they see someone else that is also just vulnerable, they say, oh, I get them. I trust them. I like them. I don't know what it is, but I like them. So let's stop trying to wear that mask that I was wearing back in 2015. And the beautiful thing is when you do become a little bit more vulnerable, there's so much freedom that you can just be yourself.
Yeah.
Like, take a deep breath. Wow. Like, I'm not carrying that burden anymore. Right. And you will attract more people.
Right. Well, I think your story earlier, I'm sure in 2015 when the sheriff showed up at the door, Sarah was like, am I going to hang this dude tonight? To now, you're a hero to her. And the journey that you've taken in the last 9 years, and which will, going to continue on, and we'll have to regroup for. So back to social media. YouTube is a focus, but if I recall, when I saw you at Landmark and you were on that panel and so forth, you're creating some leads and you're doing some unique things, I think, on the Facebook page.
Right.
You're really hyper focused, you know, because a lot of your, like your YouTube page, moving to St. Johns County.
Right.
You're not just saying moving to Florida or are you moving? You are actually, you're being very specific in there. And then tell us about your ladies on the Facebook page for the listeners who weren't at Landmark that you have going in and making comments, because social wants to be social, and you're going to get more attraction when your comments, your things, your site is having social interactions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow, man. All right. You're going to have me give the jewels, huh? So we created through our incredible friend, and she runs a great team, Amy Howell. She and her husband, Justin, created a Facebook group, and they were nurturing this group and pouring into it and really kind of cracked the code. And so we modeled that. She basically told us, showed us, coached us, and we just said, that's working. We want to do that. Will you help us? And she did. And so I got to give her all the credit. So we created a Facebook group, not a page, a group. Okay. And if you have noticed, Facebook has been pushing groups for the past 2 years. And even when you're scrolling on your feed, now you will notice that it's recommending groups, because it has learned that whereas Instagram is a different animal, Facebook knows that people want to be birds of a feather, like to flock together. And so whenever you jump into a group, then that has more interaction. It's just more tailored content. Okay. So we created a group, and it's called Moving to St. Johns County in St. Augustine. And on our YouTube channel, we're promoting that group. So YouTube is kind of like the top of our funnel where people are searching and finding. Once they find, we give them the next baby step to say, hey, maybe you're not interested now, but surely you want more information. So why don't you hop into this group and just, check things out. Now, the key to a group is engagement. It means posts, likes, comments, interaction. Facebook loves groups that are interacting with one another. There's a ton of stale and dormant groups, and Facebook will not promote that. And so while my team and I, while we post and interact, I was like, man, we need somebody to help tow the rope. And it's just so cool how all this comes about. There were 2 or 3 members in the group that were already social butterflies, not on our team, not part of real estate. That's just built in their DNA that they interact, they answer questions, they help, they make posts, and there's nothing in it for them. I mean, this is just what they do. And so we reached out to these friends and we said, hey, thank you so much for, just pouring into the group. We would love to thank you. So here's a reloadable Starbucks card. Go get coffee on us anytime you want. And these are actually specifically 3 moms. And so they live off of caffeine and sugar. And then the other one, just to take it a step further, we said, why don't you, so I opened an account at a massage place, and I'm like, go in and get a massage on my account anytime you want. And these women were so grateful. And now they are the biggest ambassadors in this group, engaging and liking and just being the social butterflies. And it helps the group's algorithm to continue to grow. And they actually, those 3 women and their families are going to the Savannah Bananas because we take care of them. Part of the family.
Yeah. So give us my husband, my wife says, oh, don't share, she's doing something. Don't share my trick. I said, well, the reality is less than 1% they may start, but they're not going to be consistent with it.
No,
they're not going to stretch out and get the Starbucks card or find those 3 super fans and massage them
right.
literally and figuratively there. But and that's what it's all. Talk a little bit, because of your consistency on YouTube. I mean, I'm sure there was times like, oh, I got to post, I haven't posted in a while. I got to refire myself up. How consistency is so key to all these things we just talked about.
It's a superpower. It may be the superpower to long-term success. And so I feel like that is an attribute of mine that I have fully subscribed to. Slow and steady and consistent. Keep the blinders on, believe and have confidence in what you're doing, and just don't stop. I mean, tens of thousands of hours on YouTube, and I'm out there. Josh Rogers is out there shooting videos, sweating my behind off in the summer, in the early days thinking, man, is anyone even going to watch this? Like, am I wasting my time? Like, I could be doing this, this, and this. And at the beginning of any journey, I'm sure at the beginning of the podcast, like it was fun and it was shiny and like new gear, new tech,
Right.
learn. But then it gets to the point to where you're like, oh man, this is a chore. It's a grind. It's not fun anymore.
Well, who's listening? You know, that kind of thing. And then I got to spice it up. Who am I bringing on as guests? I like people who are on social media, but also, I think, they have a following a little bit, is someone going to watch? So I can watch the needle go up and down depending on who I have on, but sometimes you have to bring on, shoot that video that only gets 10 views because that's practice for the next video that you might do. And you're going to do a little bit better and that's going to get the more views, or practice with a guest who's good versus, this guest who already has 20,000 Instagram followers, right? And who already is going to get an attraction and is going to move the needle just because of who they are. Right?
You're right. Yeah. And so you stuck with it. And even when you don't feel like doing it, you do it because you got to keep that engine warm, just like working out, just like following, some type of diet or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the days that you don't feel like doing it and you do it, you're holding up that commitment to yourself. The long game always wins. Success is inevitable. The only variable is time. And so what I see a lot of agents fall into as a pitfall is they don't give, they till the soil, they plant the seeds, but then they don't give it enough time for it to grow and harvest the fruit. And just before it begins to grow, maybe we get bored, we get distracted, and we jump onto a different field. And so we're jumping from field to field to field. All the meanwhile, we're starving.
Right.
We're going broke. Right. And we're just getting worn out.
Someone else goes back in the field you were in and hits the gold nugget on the next swing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say choose your lane, choose your bridge, your ship, and then just put the blinders on and give yourself, say, this is a 5-year commitment. I'm not going to try this for 5 weeks. This is 5 years, and it changes everything.
Many people, they want that. Well, as we talked about, the kind of more or less instant gratification type of thing is the term. But when it comes to measuring on social media whether or not it's actually getting business, there's no defined answer. I mean, unless you have a funnel that actually they clicked on a website, clicked on that link, or called that 800 number that you have set up that said it came from that site, you really have no measure. But in your plan between the YouTube feeding to the Facebook page and mentoring that, are you being able to measure some results to say that lead came from there?
Oh yeah.
In some measurable terms.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we did 187 deals last year, and loosely through this funnel, about 65% came through this funnel.
Wow, a third.
Massive.
Wow.
Massive.
Yeah.
And for that person that says it's not measurable, well, do this. Stop doing all social media and watch your business drop. Then you'll be able to measure it.
Exactly.
So I just shared that with someone yesterday. It's like, well, I think I would get the business anyway. I'm like, all right, stop all social media. Let's see. I guarantee you won't.
Right.
This social media and staying in front of people, that's the name of the game. And the moment you stop, your business is going to stop.
Well, that's a great point. Staying in front. Talk about now 187. You've been, 9 years now, getting back into real estate. I mean, what are you doing? Because you leverage social media for a lot of things. What are you doing on social media to stay top of mind of all those past clients, or just simply friends and family? I know you're very involved in your church. How are you using it to be top of mind? Because I think it's the thing that didn't exist before. We had to mail out the postcards, right? 20 years ago, you were mailing out postcards or letters or sending them calendars, whatever it was. Now, what do you try to do to stay top of mind of all those past customers or possible future customers that are in your warm zone?
If anyone is listening to the show this far in, you are about to get our hottest, and you're going to cut this up as a reel, so everybody's going to get this.
We can trim this down to a 5-minute cut right here.
This is it. And this is shattered everything. And literally this was 45 days ago, and you've never heard anything like this. And so we've come out with a letter of the day. You've seen this at coffee shops. Spring Park Coffee in Green Cove Springs, out on their front chalkboard, they'll say, if your name is Tammy, you get a free coffee on us today. And it's cool. Like every time you drive by, which I'm not over there often, but I always look, I'm like, name. What's the name? And so we've come out.
Josh is too familiar. Not going to go with that one.
So Kelly Melody, my director of operations, this was her idea. I give her the credit. And she's like, hey, what if we do a letter of the day and we go through the alphabet, and whoever in our network, in our sphere, current customers, past customers, friends, family, neighbors, their name starts with that letter of the day, then they get something free for that day. And so we just ran through the alphabet this past 26 days. And man, the response has been overwhelming. And so this allows our team, our agents, to scroll through their contacts, choose the letter of the day, and send out these messages. And staying in flow on a daily basis like this, it's lights out.
Wow. And what kind of little free thing are you?
You're going to force me to tell you.
Yeah, of course I am.
We'll say it's
that's
a
the
coffee.
Question my guests are going, my coffee. Listeners, coffee. It was just something small and, yeah.
Yeah. And while, maybe 10% will actually, cash in on it,
right?
It's staying in flow.
Right.
And they're like, oh, that's so cool. That's so thoughtful. How you been? And then the conversation develops from there. But our goal as a team, and our team name is F3 Home Team. F3 stands for Faith, Family, and Freedom. Our goal is to be a part of the community's lives and not have to always talk about real estate. And that's what this allows us to do, is just stay in relationship.
Well, it's that touch, right? I mean, you got to keep touching them. And now that's basically you're touching them once a month, because you're going to go through that alphabet and then a few letters every month on that. What brilliant idea.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so the agent on your team, they've got their contact list. They go right in their phone, put up A, and everybody with an A, they're sending a little pre-made text messages, obviously, because the kids, they're typed to everybody, just copy and pasting into all these people and saying, hey, I appreciate you. You're in my Rolodex. I'm sending you a Starbucks card.
Yeah.
Type thing.
That's
wow. It. Or if they I assume you probably want them to respond.
No, it's just, we're putting it out there.
Any little trick to
getting responses?
Yeah.
Yeah. The single most responded to text ever is if I were to send you a text right now and put Tracy ? Send. That will get a response every single time. So if someone ever goes dark on you, or they're busy, or you think that someone's ghosting you, or you just want to warm up, if you want to definitely get a response, just send their first name with a ?
Is that right?
Yeah.
Little tip right there.
Play around with it. You'll love it.
Or is this still, because basically what you're asking is like, Tracy, is this still your number? Yeah. And of course they're going to respond and say, yeah, hey, and now brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Tap on, we've talked about YouTube. We talked about what you're using, Facebook. What is your strategy on Instagram? Just kind of finish up our social media.
Yeah. Instagram for me is an afterthought. Where I hang out is on Facebook, and birds of a feather flock together. It's just where I am. It's where I'm comfortable. It's what I know. It doesn't take any effort, and we're getting plenty of business from there. Mm-hmm. And so Instagram is just an afterthought, because when they post on Facebook, it goes to Instagram too. For me, it's not been a focus. And also for me, it's blinders on, consistent. And my recommendation with someone is whatever they choose, whichever platform they choose, until they've like really mastered it, maybe get to that 80% dominance, adding another platform, which is like, I'm not on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is never really on my radar. Mm-hmm. It's all I can do to just do really well on one. And the moment that I split that in half, then I'll probably do average at both. So,
well, do you feel, I feel that when someone, if someone refers you and they've never seen any of your videos, oh, I had a great experience with Josh, and that person doesn't even say, hey, go check out Josh's YouTube channel, and then call him as an agent. Right. They're generally just saying, hey, call Josh, right?
Right.
But that's just, well, who's Josh Ronders? And they're going on and they're doing their background check on you, which I think that's what I do. Yeah. I stalk their social media. Who is this person? In LinkedIn, for the podcast, gives me a great outline of their life, and therefore I can create questions from that, to engage. That's why I support LinkedIn from that standpoint, because I think the stalkers it's a very quick, where's this person from? Where'd they go to school? That kind of, your alumni network, whatever it may be on there. I post on there a couple times a week, not as anywhere near what I obviously post on Instagram or Facebook, especially from the show's material. So from this, so that's why I support that. But I mean, when you were talking about roughly a third of your business last year came through your Facebook, YouTube / funnel there, how many of those other 100, 2/3 did get referred to somewhere else, but actually went on your social media and said, this guy's a real dude and he's engaged. He looks like he's a top agent. I need to talk to him.
You're right. Yep. Yeah. It's just an additional layer of marketing that moves the needle. I totally believe it. It's just, we'll never really know.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're an agent starting today, knowing what you know right now, which I imagine you get, as I think every agent, we get approached at cocktail parties or whatever. Hey, I'm looking to change career, thinking about real estate. What would be, as a mentor, that, some steps that you would think they need to take even before even taking the test? What do you think they need to find out about the business before they dive in?
I would say I would encourage them to get clear on what they want in a lifestyle and in a business and income, what they, work ethic, times, interactions, involvement, because without you being clear on what you want, then you're not putting any of your decisions through a particular filter. You're just consuming a bunch of advice and perspectives and opinions and sales pitches, and you may end up following this path that someone else says is a good idea for you, but when you get to the end of that path, you hate it. And that's a path that I kind of took in building a team, following what everyone told me to do. But when I got there, I'm like, man, this is not what it's cracked up to be. I don't want anything like this.
Right.
So I would just say, just get clear on what you want out of the business. But then this world is about surrounding yourself with the right people, not just top producers, because there's a bunch of different people putting up big numbers on the board. But I encourage new agents to find people with healthy marriages, healthy lifestyle, spiritually grounded, people that are full of joy and peace. Maybe somebody that's not working 24/7. Because if you look at the leaderboards, all you see is numbers and metrics. But when you look at the individual, you may say, and I don't want my life to look anything like that individual. So if you're going to follow a leader, you've got to be so discerning to choose the right leader. Otherwise, the people we surround ourselves with, that's who we're going to become in all those circles of life. Spiritually, marriage, parenting, physical, financial, all this stuff. So I believe now, I'm convinced, past 2 years, rather than just setting goals, we should have an idea of goals, but then find the people we surround ourselves with, because the people will lead us to the goals. And that's been a radical shift in my world.
I'm going to throw this back because I think, anyone who's done any personal development at any time, the 5 people you surround yourself, I don't know who originally said it, but it goes back many years.
Yeah.
Right. When you talk about surrounding yourself with these cheerleaders, people that are, moving forward, people that you look up to a little bit there. I mean, there's a lot of ways we can describe these 5 people. And I think all of us at different times in our lives have had people around us who, could have been a spouse, could have been, a parent, whatever, that we can't really get away from. But they're not one of the 5 that we would put in that group, because for whatever reason, they're bringing down some of the dreams or visions or, these things that we're talking about. So when you talk to, let's really, again, put the rubber to the road. How do you start to evolve and hang with these people? How do you break into, their world and start creating a relationship? Because if you're not adding value to them, you got to add a little value to them for them to pour value into you.
Absolutely.
A little bit. It's a give and take thing.
You're so right. Yeah. When other agents reach out to me and they want to take me out to lunch or coffee or whatever like that, the biggest friction point for me is that and you've been in the business for a long time, when you pour into someone and then they do nothing, man, that just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
So I would first say, for people that are bringing you down, we still love them. We just have to be intentional with the time that we spend with or without them. So just have some healthy boundaries. If somebody that brings you down calls you first thing in the morning, don't take that call. We get to choose.
That might be the best advice of the whole show right there.
We get to choose who is able to speak into our life. So guard it like you would not drink your drink if it had poison in it. You would not take poison and let your kids drink it or eat it. That's how sometimes we need to look at relationships. Just be guarded on it. And then say, for instance, if I wanted to develop my investing knowledge, in the market, or let's just say in real estate, then I would look within my network or a layer just outside my network and find who has a proven track record, who's living that life, who's mastered it. And then reach out to them and say, hey, this is my idea. These are my goals. This is my commitment level. And you look like you've mastered it. Are you open at all? If I can just, ping you every once in a while and start asking you some questions. Mm-hmm. And most people will say yes. But then I would say, hey, by the way, my superpower is YouTube. So do you have any interest in, learning about YouTube or developing or blah, blah, blah? Because I would love to help you out or point you in the right direction with that. So you did say, you definitely want to try to come from some place of value to where you can help them out.
Right.
But most importantly, if and when someone gives you advice, take action on that advice and then follow back up with them. And so, Tracy, when people ask me, can I take you out to lunch, Josh, and learn about YouTube? I'll say, yeah, absolutely. Do me this favor. Go shoot 5 videos, post them on social media. And once you post them on social media, let's go out to lunch, and lunch is on me. And only, 2 people may have ever followed through on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's actually great, because I've heard, a lot of very top agents are willing to sit down or, and have that coffee. But like you said, your time is valuable. Mm-hmm. And, nothing tears the heart than to give someone advice and they're like, yeah. And then by the time they get to their car, they've already,
they moved on to the next shiny object. Right.
I want to finish up. What did you learn from 23? And what are you doing? Maybe I'm sure you're doing some, a few things slightly different going into 24 from what you've, learned in 23.
Mm-hmm. What I've learned within these past 2-3 years is how quickly the market is now changing. The market used to change and shift over the course of 3 to 5 years. And then it was, okay, the market's changing every 2 years or so. We're seeing faster shifts in the market and faster extremes in the market. Literally, you and I are seeing 2 completely different markets within 90 days.
Yep.
Can't you see that?
Yep.
And extremes. Last fall, somebody went to the switch on the lights and just flipped the switch off, and it was crickets. And then middle of January, somebody for our business came over and just flipped the switch back on, and it's booming. And so 2 things. We are padding our reserve account, our business reserve account, because we don't want to subject ourselves to these crazy market swings that are outside of everybody's control. And I've always been encouraging my team, pay off debt, don't make my mistake, live within your means, be modest, be cool, delayed gratification. When you do the work and when you wait and when you save it, when you buy it, man, it's just that much sweeter. So there's a lot of things we can't control, but we can control our level of stress and pressure with the financial situations we choose to put ourselves in. Mm-hmm. That's a big one, man. And that applies to everybody, and they can start now. But with the business, it's just continuing to dive deep with our network, the community. We love, rather than doing a big throw out customer appreciation party, we do little pop-ups, and pop-ups are cool. You know anything about that?
Well, I think everyone has a different definition of what a pop-up is, whether it's showing up at their business or just sending, as you're doing your alphabet phone list thing, that to me is like a pop-up.
That's a personal pop-up. Yeah. And so for our customers, we'll say, hey, you guys, we're going to be at a Parlor Donuts this Thursday from 12 to 2. If you're in the area or if you got the kids, come on by. Donuts on us. Right. 12 to 2, come on and pop in and pop by. And that's been wonderful because it's not massive $5,000 events that could get rained out. And we're able to do one of these every month, every 45 days, and still stay in flow with our people.
Right.
we've never been the kind of team to buy leads or to pay for leads or do any big, advertising, because that's just a part of business that I don't feel like I could fully control. Rather, we just redirect it, just going deeper in the community and deeper with our people.
I think it's like getting a referral. I mean, when someone refers, you're not worried about, oh, I better, for a listing, you're going to compete with another agent. Someone referred you, who's already endorsed you and given you the credibility that when you go deeper into your, to stir up some of those referrals, stay top of mind. It's just the people that are referring to you are, I would get money in the bank, if you want to call it a deal in the bank, because they're there. You've already got the credibility.
And oftentimes they're your type of people.
Yeah.
Because people you do business with that you enjoy, they're going to send their friends who are like-minded.
Right. 100%. Anything you want to add? We've been going about an hour and 20 minutes here. I don't want to.
Yeah. Well, and this is just something that I just want to share with our faith, family, and freedom. That component of faith has brought a depth to me and to my peace, to my joy, to my freedom. Man, that just regardless of what the winds and waves of life in this business, and gosh, it's a lot and it's overwhelming, throw at us, just being grounded on my faith in Christ, man, it's like that light in the darkness. And
because, you always come across as you're definitely well-spoken. You come across like you have everything together, but I'm sure there's times where, behind the scenes, Sarah probably knows, like, you as everyone reaches this level that the average person doesn't see every day, doesn't see that from you.
For sure.
How do you get yourself so you're waking up the next day and you're back on track again?
Right. Yeah. There's been a lot of storms that we've gone through and experienced not too long ago. It's my morning time. It's my morning quiet time in the Word. That Word is, my bread of life and living water. And I just start each day off, in God's Word and prayer and journaling. And that, sometimes can be 30 minutes, an hour, hour and a half, but it's the calm before all the circumstances of life happen.
Yeah.
And if we believe what we believe, and this is eternity, Tracy, we're able to live heaven on earth now. And everything of life is just going to come at us from all different directions, but being grounded in just Jesus and Jesus alone, and He is my identity. He's who fills my cup. Again, that freedom for everything else, it just makes it so much tolerable. It doesn't make it easier, but it makes it more tolerable.
He definitely likes to challenge us.
You're not kidding. I would never tell anybody it makes it easier, but it's just grounded on that rock.
100%.
Yeah.
Josh, I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Great
Thank
conversation.
You, Tracy.
Thank you.
You too.